Thank you. It is August 1st, 2022, and I'm going to call the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee to order. The time is 7 p.m. and we are in the Aldermanic Chamber, as well as via Zoom teleconference. To access Zoom, please refer to the city's website for the meeting link. We are going to start with a roll call. If you are not physically in attendance, you need to share for the record why you're unable to attend and if anyone is in the room with you. Thank you.
Alderman at Large Shoshana Kelly, Chairwoman.
I am here.
Alderman at Large Ben Clemens, Vice Chair. Alderman Tyler Govia.
I am here via Zoom. I am away at work. My connection is 50-50, so I will be in and out. And I am in the room alone.
Alderman Thomas Lopez.
I'm here.
And Alderman Derek Tebow is here.
Thank you.
Also in attendance, we have Heidi Peak Kukulka.
Pretty good.
Okay, Environmental Health Manager. Steve Buxton, Fire Chief. We have Kim Kleiner, Director. And we have Director Bagley from Health and Human Services.
I think that. There's two more.
I don't know who they are.
For when you come up.
We're here to talk about Rise Client or Tenacity. Which do you think is better, fine sir?
I'm gonna have to go with Rise, honestly.
All right. Paste Python. No, you don't code.
I know C. I can do memory management.
Michaela, are we all set?
Yeah, I just kicked them out.
Okay.
I don't know what that was.
Okay, thank you. We're going to continue on. All right. Is there, first thing up on the agenda is public comment. I don't see any public in the chamber. Is there anyone online that would wish to speak? All right, I see no one. Communications?
There is none.
Interviews?
There is none.
Applications to license hawkers, peddlers, itinerant vendors license.
None.
And appointments by the mayor.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend the following reappointment to the Cultural Connections Committee. Nanyam Egbuanu with a term to expire April 30th, 2025. And also the following reappointment to National Arts Commission, Sarah Caesar with a term to expire April 1st, 2025.
Great, these are.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
Before we bundle those two, I would like to discuss the Cultural Connections reappointment.
Oh, sure.
So there's been an ongoing issue with a number of members who haven't been participating regularly. I think before.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk. I think the man at the center, you fucking.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to get any better.
That was Michaela, thank you.
I want to keep
It was
everybody
someone
muted
else.
in the
Yeah,
public,
we got it up.
Michaela.
We got it taken care of. Thank you, Michaela.
So I don't think we should reappoint any Cultural Connections Committee members until we can verify their actual attendance. But I also noticed that one specifically says care of the Interfaith Council.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be an idea to confirm that the Interfaith Council does recommend the reappointment of that person.
Okay,
So I would like to move to table that one.
okay. So your motion is to table the reappointment for the Cultural Connections Committee.
Yes.
That is not up for debate. Can you please take a roll call?
Yep. Alderman at Large Shoshana Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Tyler Govia.
Yes.
Alderman Thomas Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow votes yes as well.
And we are tabling that till we can get the more information for you, Alderman Lopez. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do the motion for the second one, please.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint to the National Arts Commission Sarah Caesar with a term to expire April 1st, 2025 by roll call.
Is there any discussion on that motion? Please take the roll call.
Okay, Alderman at Large Shoshana Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Tyler Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Thomas Lopez,
Yes.
and Alderman Tebow votes yes as well.
And that motion carries. Unfinished business,
There is none.
new business resolutions,
There is none.
new business ordinances.
All right, I'd like to make a motion for final passage of O22-022, updating environmental health department food service fees.
The motion is to recommend final passage of R22022. I believe we missed Alderman Jettie and our, who else was in the
Oh,
chamber?
yeah.
But thank you for being here. I know that the health department has a presentation, so if you'd like to come join us in the Oval, that would be great. And then, I don't know if you would like to speak to it, Alderman Jettie, as they're getting
Yeah,
settled?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So, in the budget review process, we noticed that the Environmental Health Division had an appropriation budget of $568,451 and a revenue budget of $144,650. And the ordinance setting out the fees to produce that revenue was last amended in 2006. That was 16 years ago. So we asked the Environmental Health Division whether or not, whether they could review their fee schedule and determine whether or not it, changes should be made. And so I believe they've done that, and they're here to present their findings. They also presented it to the Board of Health, who endorsed the change and requested that the Board of Aldermen amend the ordinance accordingly. And I was asked to endorse it along with Alderman at Large Gloria Timmons, who is the liaison to the Board of Health. So with that, we can hear what they've got to say.
Thank you. And we have a number of participants here to introduce this. We also have a presentation. Just state your name and your title for the record keeper, because they very much appreciate that when you speak. Thank you so much. Director Bagley?
Yes, good evening. Chairwoman Shoshana Kelly, Director Bobby Bagley, Division Director for Division of Public Health and Community Services, and just here to introduce our two presenters for this evening to give you information on the food service fees.
Good evening. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Heidi P. Kokoka. I am Nashua's health officer.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Ren Bodwin, the Deputy Health Officer for the City of Nashville for Environmental Health.
Great. And we have your presentation up. Are you going to take us through it?
Yes, I will.
Okay, great.
I'll start it off and Ren will add in as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So, exciting first page. Title page. Next slide, please. Our mission is to protect the public's health by promoting best prevention practices through science, education, guidance, and fostering public trust and enforcement of laws and ordinances. And our vision is a healthy and well-informed public with a balanced integration of human health and environmental protection. Next slide. All right, so as we've already established, our food service fees are really outdated. The model does not reflect what is currently recommended by FDA, where it's more of an assessment by risk. So that's what we are looking to adopt. And we also, part of the most confusing piece is that part of the fee is dependent upon capacity as determined by the fire marshal in each facility too. And as Alderman Jettie said, our last update was in 2006, and we have huge variability across fees for different people. And again, like I said, the structure is not risk-based and it is inequitable. So what we're proposing, is to modernize the structure and bring us more in line with similar jurisdictions, and also to put a structure in place that is risk-based. Next slide, please. Want to talk about this one?
Yes, please, thank you. So on this slide, you can see what the updated fee breakdown would look like. So in the current NRO 170, the fee structure actually has about 20 plus categories, which, as Heidi said, is very confusing because many places can actually fall into multiple categories, paying for multiple fees, as well as additional seating fees. And those seating fees can vary greatly. So right now, current structure is $1.50 per seat. So if we were to increase the current structure, people would be paying an exorbitant fee even with that small change. Because when you have hundreds of seats, you multiply that by a small fee, that adds up rather quickly. And what turns out is that when we go to license people, they don't know where they're standing from the start. They usually don't find out until after the fact when they're ready for their food service license. So it's really unfair to that business owner when they come in. So what you're seeing here are what the new breakdowns would be for that category, as Heidi said, is really based on risk. And so that higher category, our A, is that highest risk going down to our lower risk, which is going to be in the E's in the F category. So the breakdown that you see is the number of license holders. If we were to take our annual license holders that we have right now and break them out into this new structure. So most of them are going to be falling into that classic restaurant structure. Or some multiple kind of groupings that they are now. We kind of compile them into this newer structure. So most of them are falling in that higher risk B1, that C1, or that D1 kind of a category. So this is based off of data that we pulled from our system on June 30th in the actual, what we would assume for the annual revenue based on this new structure. So previously we're bringing in about $115,000 to $120,000 under the current structure. We'd be upping that to about $180,000 based on our current fees. On average, we license about 530 licenses every year. Right now, we actually have more than we've ever had. From this poll, we had 543 active licenses. So it's about 10 more on average than we do every year. And we have seen that bump up over the last couple of years, which is shocking with the turn that we've seen. In our world, there's more people actually going for new food licenses. So this number is a little bit higher than when we gave it to the Board of Health. But this is what that current breakdown structure would look like with a new system, and it simplifies things moving forward for us. Next slide, please. Back to you, Heidi.
So as Ren just mentioned,
Can you do your name and title?
oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, it's hard to remember.
Heidi Pikakoka, Nashville's health officer. So this makes it much easier for people who are just getting started and want to open a new food service business. They'll know what their fee is going to be. We don't have to wait until we issue an approval letter and somebody comes in for licensing. So I'm expecting that this will be a much smoother process internally as well as for the client. And again, I can't say enough about risk-based aspects of this change. It really is going to make it much easier to assign people to an appropriate risk. And let's see, and this will give us some momentum to make sure that we can update our fee schedule in the future. And I appreciate Alderman Jetty's point about sustainability for our program. That's very important that Nashua have a really active food service program to protect the citizens. Anything you'd add to this?
No, I think that's it.
Next slide, please. We're also putting in a late fee for annual licenses. Part of what we do is chase down people to pay. COVID was a strange situation for a lot of people, but we kept them actually licensed through it, and there were some that obviously went out of business. But as Ren had said, we're also seeing that there are an awful lot of them coming into business now as well. We made a slight increase for our temporary and farmers market fees, also with an expedited fee for late submissions, because that can be a norm, and we're trying to, there's a lot of work that goes into the approval of those, and if we don't have enough time, we don't want to approve something that might be unsafe. And then our reinspection fees, currently they are half of an annual license fee for an individual establishment. And now we're setting two base fees instead of that calculation that people have to make in the field of what that license fee is, what's half of it. And it's important to do that inspection. So for the higher risk, it's $200, $100 for the lower risk ones. No fee for public schools, the soup kitchens, nonprofits that don't sell alcohol, religious organizations. And we also simplified and slightly flattened our plan approval fees as well. So people will know a little bit better going into this what to expect. Next, yep, and there we are at the end, and if anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much. I'm going to put it out to the committee for questions. Alderman Lopez.
I actually have a couple. First one, I don't see food trucks on there specifically. I mean, is it a restaurant with no seats? How does that get feed?
Hold on just a second, let me switch to reading glasses.
If I may, Heidi?
Yes, please,
Thank you.
you found it.
Yes. Ren Bowden and Environmental Health. So the mobile vendors would actually fall under our D1 category. So it's very, very similar to restaurants with less than 25 seats, our private schools, the childcare, and any of the mobile vendors will all be now lumped into that one area. So that's just a flat rate now.
Okay, if I may.
Alderman Lopez.
If they have to do modifications in order to get permitting, maintain permitting or anything like that, does that count under construction, or how do you guys handle that exactly?
Yeah, so that's handled in the plan review fees. So if there is any change to their current structure, they would do a minor fee for the review structure. The great thing about this plan is that if there was some adjustments previously and there was a change to the operation or to the seating, now they would also be charged these extra fees every time that had happened. That will no longer be the case moving forward. So again, it really simplifies this moving forward.
And then my last question is, for some of the larger restaurants downtown that have like multiple expansion capacity, I'm thinking of Martha's particularly, they have maybe 200 plus seats inside, but then over the summer they can add a large amount of outdoor seating. And then they also have the upstairs event rooms where they could be empty most of the year or they could be hosting an event. How do you calculate something to meet that dynamic?
Heidi P. Kokoka. That would be, they would fall specifically into one of those categories. So let's see, I can't remember what they are, how big they are right now. Do you remember doing anything with Martha's specifically?
I do. So with Martha's, or for some of the larger ones, so right now the seating fees are based off of the assembly permits from the fire marshal's office. So those are the bigger categories that was mentioned in the fee structures, the B1, the C1, and the D1 structure. Your B1 is your greatest structure, so it's any restaurant with greater than 100 seats would fall under that B1 category. Between 25 and 100 would fall under the C1 category, and less than 25 is going to fall under that D1 category. And again, those are based off of the assembly permits from the fire marshal's office.
Okay, so if I understand that right, then places with expansion capacity beyond 100, it doesn't matter if they go from 105 to like 300, 400. They've been inspected, we know what their capacity is, and they're being inspected on that full amount.
Yes, and that's why it'll simplify fees moving forward, because prior, if they had to flex, we'd be charging them every seat that they're flexing, while now it's just that kind of base rate.
Okay, I just want to make sure we weren't writing something where they do the annual thing, but then every time they do an event, we have to look at that over or something along those lines. But it sounds like you are definitely leveling that down and kind of streamlining the process.
All set, Alderman Lopez.
Yep, thank you.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So I'm going to ask the same question I asked earlier before it started because I wanted to get it on the record. I love this, by the way. I think, one of my questions was going to be, what are the other cities doing? But I saw that you had that up there. I think it's great that we're now trying to be more equitable and it's driving up more revenue and it's being more fair to each of the organizations. I've thought in my head a lot about our fees in general, from dog licenses to this to sport leagues in the city are a little low or not right. So I'm glad we're starting to look at that. My question was, because it wasn't called out specifically other than nonprofit. So sports leagues in the city that have concessions, do they or will they fall under the nonprofit and no longer have to pay for having a concession stand?
I think so, and I'm sorry that that's not a straight answer, but I am pretty sure we also have a seasonal vendors, which, this is new to us as well. We haven't quite assigned each one to each thing. But if somebody can demonstrate nonprofit status, we can certainly, that would be where they would fall, as F1 with no fee.
Follow.
Alderman Tebow.
So something like Cal Ripken, 'cause I know it well, they are a 501c3 organization,
Perfect.
or they were at the time. But then there's city stuff, like Babe Ruth is a city. So would that fall under, because that's now, I don't know what that falls under compared to Cal Ripken, who has that paperwork. City stuff may not. Is that right? Does that make sense, or?
We typically don't charge the city
Okay.
itself.
Gotcha. And they don't really have concession stands in a lot of their places anyway, if I remember correctly. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All set, Alderman
I
Tebow?
am, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. First off, I think this makes a lot of sense. It sounds like it's bringing us in line with other cities and towns in the area. And it also sounds like you're simplifying it, which I think is really great. I had a question around small business owner brain here, around the re-inspection fees and the late fees. Do we make it fairly easy to re-up your license, or is it like you physically have to come here, or what's our system look like in terms of making it streamlined for the businesses?
Yes. We have a software program that we're still working the bugs out of. We could have a more specific software program, but with the advent for us of paying online, it really simplifies things. And if somebody doesn't come in for a license, we will either drop it off or put it in the mail for someone. So that is much easier than having to go into the office. But we're also there 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, without holidays. Did I answer your question, or am I moving off track?
No, you touched on, I think that the online payment makes a lot of sense. My follow-up was going to be if we could look into whether the software allows you to just set it up to auto pay, because I totally get that you guys are busy and you don't want to have to chase people for their licenses, but I also think that business owners, especially restaurants, have non-traditional hours, and I don't want to make it an undue burden on them to get themselves relicensed.
Yes, I agree. That was one of the things that we had anticipated that the new software would do, that it would automate the process a little better for us. That hasn't turned out to be exactly the case. And so eventually would like to look for a more modified software plan that allows that, because we know that most of food service, they hold completely different hours, and it's very hard for them to actually get in first thing in the morning to conduct their business. So yeah, that would be ideal.
And I'm happy to help in any way. I come from a family that owned a restaurant. My brother's a chef, so
awesome.
My hope would be that most people are just very busy and their schedules are off of our sort of 9 to 5s. Go ahead.
Thank you. No, I just would like to add to that. So just to let you know how the process works, the licenses will get mailed out about 6 weeks prior to the date that it is up for the renewal. And we did add online payments about 1.5 years ago, which most people have absolutely loved. Something we asked for a long time, and most people are using that, and it's making it a lot better. So we do have the online payment option, the mail-in option, or the walk into our office option. during the normal business hours, but the online option has been a huge lifesaver for many of these people. And to add to that software problem, it was promised that there eventually will be an online portal where business can actually have their own kind of version in that portal, and then they can set up all these things. Whether or not that'll come to fruition, we're not sure, but that was the ultimate goal of this current software program.
That's great. And I just, as a business owner, anything that I can hit auto pay on and not have to think about is, it's, you guys get what you need and it's not on my plate once a year, so. That was the only question that I had. Alderman Lopez has his hand.
With regards to the portal, I heard back from several restaurants and or vendors when I was trying to find out what the community response to this would be, is if they could like auto-populate events that they do either every year or every week. They would love that if they're not changing their plans.
Thank you.
So it sounds like you have some support if you need additional ability through your software. Let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anyone else's hand up. You all set? Alderman Govea? Okay. I don't see your hand up.
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, just making sure. All right, please call the roll.
All right, Alderwoman at Large, Shoshana Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Tyler Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow also a yes. So
And
4-0.
That motion carries. Thank you for coming out and explaining. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Heidi.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for your help.
All right.
So next we have before us O22, O23. I see that Chief Buxton is here. Are you coming up as well? You can come join us in the oval.
All right, I'd like to make a motion for O-22-023, updating fire prevention fees for final passage.
The motion is to recommend final passage of O22, O23. And Chief, do you want to give us a quick overview?
Sure, thank you. Nashville Fire Chief Steve Buxton. I also have with me tonight our Fire Marshal, Adam Pouliot. I'd like to start by thanking Alderman Jetty. He was one of the ones in budget review who pointed out that our fee structures had not been updated in quite a few years, since 2007 actually. The following day after that meeting, I reached out to Fire Marshal Pouliot, who had stated that they had undertaken that previously years ago and hit a few roadblocks. And so we undertook the effort again. He did some research into what was going on in other communities of like size and where he had acquaintances. He'll walk you through all that and can explain how we came up with the fee structure or the updated fee structure that you have before you tonight. So I'll turn it over to him.
Chief. You can take it away if you'd like. Just make, I'm sorry. You can state your name for address and send it like you want.
Adam
to speak to
Pouliot,
it.
Fire Marshal for the city.
Yeah, they're very directional.
Okay. So Chief asked me to take a look at our fee schedule and see what kind of changes we could make. And as he said, I reached out to some of the bigger cities, Manchester, Concord, and Keene, looked at what they were charging. Most of those cities have updated their fee schedule on a more regular basis than we have. Ours has not been updated since 2007. So I took their information, went through our existing schedule, looked at some areas where we were missing and made some changes. I would say most specifically, our site review plans, billing review plans were where we made some of the biggest changes. Those fees are based on square feet of structures, and under the old schedule, they kind of capped out at 25,000 square feet. And if you look around the city, you can see that we've had a lot of projects that far exceed that. Those plan reviews take much longer, so we were missing the mark on a lot of areas. Same with our fire alarm and sprinkler systems. A lot of those are based on square feet of building space. We've been building a lot bigger buildings, and they would cap out at, 52,000 square feet. We've been adding buildings that are much larger than that, so made some adjustments there. Added a couple of things, like food trucks. We're never in our fee schedule. We've been inspecting food trucks for a few years now. They weren't in the fee schedule. We have not been charging a fee for them. We've been doing them basically just to get eyes on them and make sure that they're operating safely in the city. So that's a new add. And the other significant increase would be on our incident reports, environmental searches, property history searches. We've been really inundated with property requests over the last few years. Obviously, real estate transactions take place. Lenders want to know history on, above ground storage tanks, below ground storage tanks, any hazmat storage, things like that. That involves an awful lot of research because prior to 2007, a lot of our stuff was not online or not on computer, not easy to pull up. We're going to go down to the basement. We're pulling paper files to go back. So those kinds of requests, we have to give them the information under the right to know laws. Very time consuming. And with the amount of property sales and transactions going on, we've been inundated with those. So we've upped those fees. So those are some of the big changes. Yep.
All right, thank you for that overview. Do I have questions from the committee? Alderman Lopez.
In the previous presenters, they had made different allowances for nonprofits, for churches, that kind of stuff. It doesn't look like that's the case here.
It has not been the case. Churches are places of assembly. They require to be inspected. A lot of them have commercial kitchens as well, so those get inspected. So those are required annually. So under the place of assembly inspections, it's the $50 fee for a permitted area. We've always charged that. We've never had any complaints or concerns.
No, I wasn't objecting. I was making note of it.
Oh, okay. And that's the one area, honestly, where I didn't increase the fee. Place of assembly inspection stayed the same because I think that's fair and it's right in line with what other communities are charging.
I also noticed if they fail an inspection and need a re-inspection, past I think the second one, then it's a flat 150 fee regardless of what the price was for a regular inspection?
Correct.
Okay, and that's basically for not following feedback.
Yep.
Okay. All set, Alderman Lopez?
Yep.
Are you all set?
I'm good.
I have one question.
Sure.
I think this makes a lot of sense, and it looks like you really thought through it, so thank you for doing that work. I was actually interested in getting a little bit in the weeds here, but under the systems, carbon dioxide, et cetera, it says pre-engineered and engineered, and there were different fees before, and now you're making, I just want to, what's the difference?
That's a good question, because honestly, from an inspection standpoint, there's no difference whether it's an engineered, in-stock system that they could just take out of the warehouse, install in your place, or if it's something engineered for a specific, process in a factory or something. There's no difference in the plan review for it. There's no difference in the inspection and test of the system. So it didn't make any sense to have two different fees.
Understood. My only other question, I know I said I only had one, I do that a lot, was around, I know you said you spoke to some of the other cities in terms of our highest fee or kind of the ones that are potentially most charged. Are we in line with them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
So we're not above them or anything?
We are not above them.
Okay.
I don't think we're above in any of the line items.
Okay, perfect. Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just thought of a question while you were asking that, because on the environmental health inspection stuff, we saw that there was, I guess, more revenue coming in. Do you guys know, is this a revenue increase or a revenue decrease with the changes?
Oh, this would be a revenue increase.
Increase? Okay.
Yes.
All I need to know. I'm good.
Great. Everyone else all set? Okay. Please take the roll.
All right.
The motion before us was to recommend final passage.
Alderman at Large, Shoshana Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Tyler Govia.
Yes.
Alderman Thomas Lopez.
Yes.
And Alderman Tebow votes yes. It's 4-0 and motion carries.
Motion carried. Thank you so much for coming out and
Thank you
doing
very
work
much
on
for your
this.
support.
Thank you.
Okay. Tabled in committee.
There is none.
I see no public online or in the chamber. General discussion. Alderman Tebow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just combine this for myself into remarks by Alderman. I won't say anything at that point. I do want to thank Alderman Jettie. I think, anytime we have something that hasn't been updated since 2006 or 2007, it's time to look at it. So, and if we have other things like that, anybody's listening, I'm proud to endorse, because that's way too long to let something go. So thank you for bringing that forward, and I think this makes a lot of sense, and both of them that came through was great. So thank you. The other thing I wanted to mention, and again, I didn't have any comments tonight but I wanted to thank Alderman Jettie, and then I wanted to make this comment. Based on the public coming in earlier onto this meeting, and again, I don't know what was going on there, but there was foul language, and we keep pushing ourselves to a time where we're going to get rid of Zoom for the public and make them come in, because we can't keep having meetings where we have vulgar language and just awful behavior because you can hide behind a screen. If the public wants to be part of these meetings, they can certainly come in and make any comments they want during the 2 sessions we have for most meetings. And I just think that it was again, it's so disruptive and so just not what we want to hear in the city. We have a great city, and I've been defending it all weekend online. We're a great place to live. We're 51 out of 150 again, and I don't remember what it was for, but it was a lot of cities looked at, and we made the list again. So we constantly make lists. This is a good city to live in, and we get a few rabble-rousers that like to say it's not a good city, but it is. And I want to thank everybody that lives in the city that does the right thing. So thank you.
Alderman Lopez.
So for my part, I appreciate Alderman Jettie's attention to updating fee schedules. I was concerned about potentially raising fees at a time where we're looking at, inflation costs and all those types of things increasing. What I saw our departments doing wasn't necessarily raising the fees, but updating the manner in which the fees are attached, particularly in the environmental health, so that it's more focused on the risk base versus the other. And with the fire marshal permits, it's more reflective of city staff time being used to do the inspections. So I appreciate that, because I'm wary of things like parking fees, for example, where an argument is, well, we could get more money out of people, so we should. It's not competitive enough. That's not the point of our public revenue generating things. And I think there could be a temptation to just look at anything that hasn't been updated and use the fact that it wasn't updated as a chance to raise it. And I don't think that's what happened here. I think there were some intelligent choices made and some good rationalizations for it. So I appreciate the work that was done there. And then as a follow-up to the commenting on Zoom, I think that had very little to do with our city. They were not addressing anything on the board or even anybody in this room. They were just trolling and having ongoing conversations with each other. And that does a disservice to the people of Nashville, because we're on their time. Like, we're representing them. We were elected to do this business. And for somebody potentially anywhere in the country to be able to just log into our virtual Zoom things and go back and forth like that, that's not what the intention behind public comment is either. So I echo Alderman Tebow's opinions, and I think it's time that we look at whether Zoom is really improving access or whether it's becoming a barrier to people who authentically wanted to comment or follow along, having to listen to that at the beginning and having to wade through it in order to make their own comments. Thank you.
Go ahead, Alderman Jettie.
Thank you. So on that point, I'm the last person to talk about Zoom or anything to do with computers, but I do participate in a lot of Zoom meetings, both here and in my work, and I know that in a lot of other meetings, the ability to say anything during the meeting is controlled by someone. Someone who's running the meeting, and you can't really speak unless you're first recognized somehow. So I'm wondering if, those people, Alderman Lopez was right. They weren't talking to us that I could tell, and they weren't talking about anything that we were doing. And I just wonder if it was just a fluke that they got on. But, if someone, does get on, it seems to me we can, I know it happens in other meetings, so there must be some way of controlling that so that a person can't just speak without first being recognized by the chair or by, someone that's controlling the meeting. So, I wouldn't throw out Zoom, just on the experience that we just had tonight. I would like to look in, or have someone look into how that happened, and is there a way of preventing that?
I can tell you how it happened, but I'm not going to do it right now. I'll do it after the meeting when it's not on Zoom.
Okay.
All set, Alderman Jettie?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks. I think that I enjoyed the presentations from both departments that put these together, and I think that the idea that they did this in a very smart way is correct. And I was pleasantly surprised with, as an entrepreneur, knowing what you're going to pay if you're putting up a restaurant you didn't necessarily know until you're into it. I think that'll help people planning and wanting to get into business to have a really solid idea of what they're getting into in terms of fees and getting all the approvals. So I thought that was a really good job by both departments. Zoom is, I know it's a hot topic. I come down on, I think, especially with staff, being able to Zoom, it's so much better for them from a quality of life perspective. They have to be here, but they're here all day too, and allowing them to access the meeting in a way that allows them to get home, have dinner, see their families, whatever it is a humane way of going about the work we have to do here. It's important, but I think that people need to have time, and this allows them to get home before, sometimes 10 o'clock, whatever we have our meetings. We're elected to be here, but I'm sure they would love to get home to their beds sooner than we are some nights. And I think that Zoom definitely improved and made it a lot easier for the public to come and access and give comment, which I'm always in favor of. I like to hear from our constituents, but I also do agree that it has gotten, more and more nasty in the way that it has been and within the chamber. And I think it's important that we look at that and make sure that when we're here and when we're in the chamber, we're all talking about things, we're all part of the same community, that we're being, fair and open and non-combative in the way that we discuss, because we can be in different sides of the aisle, that's fine, but these need to be civil conversations for us to be able to move the city forward and do the work we need to do. So I'm a little torn on Zoom. I think it was critical during the time that we were in COVID. I think it's critical for staff. Interested to hear how the conversation goes with the full board around public and their ability to access and comment on our meetings. I think we kind of led into remarks by Alderman, but I'll call if there's any additional remarks by Alderman. Okay, do I have a motion? Alderman Lopez.
Move to adjourn.
By roll call? Don't look at me like that. It's the rules.
It's online.
All right, the motion is to adjourn. Alderwoman at Large, Shoshana Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Tyler Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Thomas Lopez.
Yes.
And Alderman Tebow is also a yes. We are adjourned.
Thank you. Hey, Michaela. get that to you, but also run the meeting, and I was like,